Alright, welcome to my tutorial on how to make great looking thumbnails efficiently using Photoshop. Photoshop is not free, unfortunately, so this probably won't help you if you don't have access to it. But if you do have Photoshop and you want to learn how to quickly make thumbnails for YouTube videos or whatever, or if you're just new to Photoshop and you want some quick tips on how to quickly get accustomed to the user interface of this program, hopefully this will help you out. For my videos, I like to usually use a setup like this where I have some nice big text that's readable with an outline. I have a nice background, usually showcasing the pet that I am using in my video, and then I'll have this card icon here on the side which will show the abilities, the stats, the name, and everything for the pet that I'm showcasing. So I have two screenshots from WoW that I will be using, and they're going to be in this folder over here. Just right here I have these two JPEGs, so I'm just going to open them up real quick and we'll get started on the tutorial. No. So we're going to open both of these up, and so starting off, this is what we have, are these two screenshots. We're going to take them and put them together to make our thumbnail. The reason I closed that last one is because that was how I had worked on it previously. So what we want is we want to use this one as our background. We want to use a small section from this one to add on to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to select this image. We're going to use our marquee tool. The rectangular one is the quickest, and you can select this area right here and hit Control X to cut it, or Control Z to undo that, or you can do Control C to copy the area. It doesn't really matter because we're just going to delete this this entire JPEG in a second and not worry about it. If you're interested in, say, selecting an area, maybe you want to select Mr. Wiggles instead of the card, we'll go ahead and just deselect. And we're going to use this marquee tool, have the plus sign active, not the minus or the other. I prefer using the plus. We're going to come here, Alt scroll to zoom in, so you can zoom out or scroll up to zoom in while you're holding the Alt key. Otherwise it'll just do that. That's not helpful. We want to zoom in like this. We want to select Mr. Wiggles. Then all you have to do is have this key, this tool, and then that specific part of the tool selected, and then you can choose how big you want your selection to be. So we're just going to go ahead and start off at 13 pixels ish. Go ahead and get a nice selection of Mr. Wiggles, and then we can, add a little bit here and there. We're going to make this a little smaller. We're going to try to select part of his ear. We're going to try to select more of his tail, more of his bacon, and then we're going to deselect the area that we don't care about. I'm going to zoom in a little more and try to deselect this part of his ear that is just background. This part's a little bit difficult. I don't typically like doing this kind of thing, but when it's a thumbnail, it's not a big deal because they can't. Nobody can see if you accidentally left too much of the background on an item that you copied and pasted. And if you want, you can literally go in pixel by pixel like this, and it's time consuming, but it works eventually. So now I would have an area of Mr. Wiggles that I'm pretty nice selection that I can kind of just copy and paste. So if I wanted to do that, I would zoom out to make sure I have the area that I want selected. I do, and then I would just select this tool to be safe. You probably don't have to, but all you have to do now is hit either, like I said, Control X to cut him out, or I'll hit Control Z to undo that, or you can hit Control C. Then you can come over here and you can put Mr. Wiggles right on top of your picture. If you have this tool selected, now you can move him wherever you want. So I could put Mr. Wiggles over here. I could, kind of put him here between me, whatever I want to do with him, but I don't want Mr. Wiggles. This video is about the Sundarter, so I'm going to go ahead, delete that layer, and I'm going to come over here and select the area that I do want. So I'm going to come over here, go ahead and I'm going to hit select, then deselect to not be selecting on Mr. Wiggles, and then I'm going to come over to my rectangular tool because that's faster than using this tool. It's just, you know, a nice quick rectangle for what I'm doing. It's very, very helpful. I'm just going to come here, select this little rectangle card, and then I'm just going to Control C to copy it. Now I'm going to come over here, and I'm not going to paste it yet because I have a little bit of work to do on this background image. First thing you'll notice about the background image is you can't move it. If you try to, like I see I left clicked and tried to drag it, it's going to give me this could not use the move tool because the layer is locked. If you want to undo that, you have to right click this, you have to duplicate the layer, name it whatever you want, and then you can move this layer as much as you want. And if you want, you can move this one wherever you want, and then you can delete this layer. But I don't recommend doing that. I recommend keeping your background layer locked so that it can't move around, and it's going to be a nice kind of background that is stationary. So we're going to keep our background there. However, even though you can't move it, what you can do is you can transform it in some ways. So first thing you can do is you can select all, come over to edit, transform, and then you can flip horizontally. I want to do that because I want to have this area free to put my pet card icon that I copied from earlier. So now that I have it flipped, my pet is over here, my screen is open over here, and I'm almost ready to paste that card. The only other thing I have to do is I'm going to come over to image. I'm going to change the image size from 1920 by 1017 to something like 960, and it will actually scale because it has this little lock thing. 960 by 509. And now what that's going to do, my reason for doing that is now the picture is going to be a small enough file size that YouTube will take it. I think YouTube doesn't let you take more than like 2 megabytes of a custom thumbnail, and so an average size 1090 or whatever it was, 1080 by 1920. It was 1920 by 1017 pixel screenshot from WoW is going to be too big of a file size. So changing it down a little bit, I just kind of basically cut it in half, is always going to make your file size small enough. So what you're going to do next is you're going to go ahead, if you haven't already copied it, this is where you would come and you would copy your items that you want to paste onto your thing. But since I still have it copied kind of in the clipboard of my Photoshop's memory, I'm going to go ahead and just hit Control V. It'll put it right in the middle of the screen. Then I'm going to make sure I have this tool selected, make sure I have this layer selected, and then I can move this layer right over here into this corner. Boop. After it's there, if I want, just to keep things simple, I can go ahead and I can just select, what I did, by the way, to do that is I just selected this, held the Shift key, and then left-clicked this as well. Then I can right-click. I can either flatten them or merge the layers. That basically does exactly the same thing for our purposes. So I'll just say flatten image, and it's going to turn it into the same layer. Now if I try to move it, it's all this locked background, so I can't move anything. So make sure if you ever do that, that you are happy with how things are. If you're not happy with that, you can just hit Control Z. Sometimes you might not be able to. Yeah, you're going to. I have Control Z set up to do step backwards. That's what I recommend. Otherwise, just Alt Control Z is the default for Photoshop. So if you want to step backwards, you do Alt Control Z. But now I can move this layer again if I want, but I am happy with where it is, and I like to keep things simple. So I'll go ahead and merge them, flatten them. It does the same thing. So now that I have that, I don't really care about this. I'm going to close this just to, like I said, simplify things. And I'm almost actually done. Next thing I want to do is I want to add a title and make that title stand out, because at the end of the day, your thumbnail is going to be just zooming out. You hold Alt and you scroll. It's going to be about that big. So you can kind of see my main here, Linica. You can see the pet, and you can see the card, but you can't really make out anything. And then the text needs to be very visible. So it's about that big. Yeah, thumbnails aren't very big. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over here to the text icon, go ahead and click it, and you're going to go ahead and scroll back in. We're going to make it about 100 a 100-point font. You can leave it at sharp. That's nice. Left align's fine. We don't really care about that. We're going to choose this yellow color, and I really like this Lucida Calligraphy Italic font. I like it a lot. It looks rather pretty. It's not too fancy, but it's not too blocky or choppy or anything either. It's just a nice font that I prefer, just kind of as a baseline font. Go ahead and click somewhere like right about here. We're going to go ahead and start typing in our title. We're going to just say Sun Darter Hatchling. We're going to come back here, go ahead and hit that enter, put it on the second line. Then we're going to, just using the arrow keys or the mouse, whichever you want, you can put this somewhere that's kind of more centered, where you're happy with it. I'm pretty happy with that. And then the problem that you'll see is some of these letters are kind of blending in to the background here, and there's a way to fix that where you can keep this nice bright yellow color that really stands out, and at the same time not have to worry about some of the letters really blending into the background. So the way you do that in Photoshop is called a stroke function. So what you do is, before you can do that, if you try to go down here and you try to add a stroke, oh, it lets you. I was under the impression you had to rasterize this before. Learn something new every day. So if you rasterize it, you can't edit it. It's a good thing to know. So apparently you don't have to rasterize it. That's nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this text thing, this text layer. I'm going to go ahead and select this FX function and select stroke. Stroke is going to, by default, have a couple things. I'm going to keep this black color. I'm going to keep it as position outside. If I put it inside, it looks a little goofy, honestly. So we're going to put it outside the layer, which will be a nice border for the text. That 3 pixel is a little bit thick. 1 doesn't really do the trick. So 2 just looks garbage. So 12 just looks garbage. 2 looks pretty nice to me. There is an argument to be made for 3 because it really makes it stick out. But I kind of like 2. 3 though. It's hard to say. Can you do a 2.5? I don't think so. Oh, you can. That's funny. 2.5 pixels. I kind of think I'm just going to stick with 3 though. I don't know. It's hard to tell. 3 makes it look a little blocky, but it does make it very clear. I'm going to go ahead and keep 3, I think. I think 3 is the best here. So we're going to leave it at 3 pixels. Outside, blend mode normal, opacity 100%. Sure, why not? Color's going to be black. We could make it a different color, but we're just going to keep it simple. Go ahead and hit OK. And now we have a nice black border on our text, which really takes care of that blending that we had with this yellow letter, yellow H, and the background sky clouds here. So now I'm pretty happy with how my thumbnail looks. Not much else I would change about it. When it's about this size, it's pretty easy to read. You can kind of get the idea. You know, I'm just here at my main, my priest. Have my pet here in the corner, and then I have the pet card, and then a nice readable title. Might want to take that title. Oops, my bad. Might want to take that title just down a little bit and kind of put it in the middle. You can play around with whatever you want for the sizes and everything, but I feel pretty happy about that. I like how it looks. So I'll go ahead and go to File, go to Save As. I'm gonna put this in this directory as a PNG. Is typically the file format you're gonna want. You can just name it whatever you want. Thumbnail 36, because this is my 36 pet battle video. Example, and then just .png. And then you'll just go ahead and hit save. And now whenever you're uploading your YouTube video, you can just go to that file and use that thumbnail. So that's how I make thumbnails using Photoshop. Hopefully this guide helps you out. If you're a little new to Photoshop, this is just kind of a nice baseline, you know, a couple tools that you can work with. And if you have any questions or comments, requests about how I do any of my thumbnails or about how you can use Photoshop, I'm not a professional or anything with this, but I'm pretty handy with Photoshop, so I'll do my best to answer your questions as they come. But thank you all for watching. I will see you all in the next video.